All right, well, it's just after 11 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started here just so we can keep up with the time here in the next hour. Um, my name is Michael Yeager. I am the lead generation manager for World Synergy. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Artificial Intelligence Marketing, the Unfair Advantage. We're really excited to have you here today for today's program. We have a ton of exciting information and things that we want to get covered this afternoon with you. Before we get started, I have just a few housekeeping items to go over. This webinar is being recorded. After the webinar is concluded over the next few days, we'll be looking to get out a copy of the recording for you to view at your own leisure. Participants are now on mute at the moment. If you're logged in online, you should be able to see our slide screen right now with artificial intelligence marketing listed and the woman in the running suit. You may submit questions using the Q&A button down at the middle of the screen. We'll have some time to go over questions and answers throughout and during the end of the presentation. With that being said, it kind of sums up our housekeeping. I'd like to start introducing panelists. If we can go ahead and switch to the next slide. Glenn, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. And thanks everyone for joining us, especially in Cleveland. It's a beautiful sunny day, which we don't get many of those in Cleveland, Ohio. So hi, I'm Glenn Smith. I'll be with Kevin today for the next hour. I'm the CEO of World Synergy. And we're actually, it was interesting when I was looking at my notes last night of our years in business. We're actually in our 24th year. So next year will be our 25th anniversary, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, we're going to be talking about AI and how it helps marketing, and that's why we call it the unfair advantage. So we're going to try to make this as informal as we can, because I know we have quite a few folks on this, and we want to get to questions. We want to actually show you the product, so we're not going to bore you with a bunch of slides. We're actually going to show you the meat of it and how this stuff works. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn and Mike. Really excited to be here today. My name is Kevin McCormick. I'm a senior customer success manager here at BrightEdge. Been working with the World Synergy team for the last couple of years now. So really excited to dive into AI and how World Synergy is leveraging the BrightEdge platform and technology to do their SEO and manage that on a ongoing basis for their clients. So excited to be here today and excited to dive into it.
Excellent.
Slide. So
here's the agenda for today. We need to obviously give some definitions of what is AI and why is it important. And we're going to share with you how AI is used in marketing, but more specifically show you how we're using the BrightEdge platform to just deliver amazing results. And we'll talk about the differences between traditional and digital marketing, specifically with AI, and then talk about, is AI going to replace marketers today? So we're going to look at that, and then, as I said, get into some real life examples of how we're using BrightEdge AI to drive SEO. So, as I said, we're 24 years old. World Synergy is in Cleveland, Ohio. We consider ourselves a unified business solution company. And really what that means to a lot of folks is that we try to have one source of data for all of our business decisions. And so as we work with organizations, trying to understand what's really important to customers, but really trying to get down to eliminating islands of data. And one of the things I think you'll see interesting today about this presentation is that we're using AI. It's integrated with other tools, so that we're not having to export, import. We're not looking at multiple systems. We're looking at one set of true data.
Next.
Yeah, so we talk about our philosophy. Again, it's elimination of data. And I know many of you have CRMs and you have ERPs and you probably use Excel and what have you. And that's okay. But our goal when we work with organizations to drive results to really help you thrive is we get to a single source, or we integrate the data as much as possible. So That's what we find to be the most value to customers to make real decisions, is getting them what we call unified data.
Next.
Great, yeah, and I could jump in here on the World Synergy partnership with BrightEdge. And so World Synergy leverages and uses the BrightEdge technology and platform as an extension of their team. So they're using BrightEdge on behalf of their clients and working with myself as the customer success manager, along with our strategic account manager. We have a full support model that is really ingrained with the World Synergy team on a regular basis, daily basis, really, and making sure that they have everything that they need in order to fully manage those clients that are set up within the platform. So it's a very closely knit and close working relationship that we have together.
Thanks, Kevin. So now we'll talk a little bit about what AI marketing is, and AI meaning artificial intelligence. As we go throughout the slides, you'll see that pop up a number of times. It's a method of leveraging intelligence technologies to collect data, customer insights, anticipate customers' next move, and to help make automated decisions that impact your marketing efforts. AI can boost the return on investment of your marketing, and with the right target strategy, you can help hit the right person efficiently and effectively at the right time, really is what's most important.
Yeah, and Mike, to add to this, one of the reasons we started using AI years ago is because doing marketing's job today is more and more challenging. So the faster you can get to results and get to making decisions is really what's going to drive the ROI that you're talking about. So I know we'll be talking about, will AI replace people? But the reality is the faster data that you get, the better decisions you have, the closer you'll get to making a true ROI.
Great. Next.
Yeah, so this is just it's obviously pretty common sense. It's kind of tongue in cheek, but when you look at how traditional marketers, and I know some of you might have folks that are using their brains to figure out SEO strategies and what have you, and figure out how to get leads into your websites, into your business. But that's really old school. It's really using a map. And when you look at AI today, specifically, I use this example of a smartphone. It's kind of like using Waze or some Google Maps to determine where you're going to go, and if there's obstacles to get around those obstacles, if there's traffic, there's accidents, there's maybe some speed traps. It's not just the app itself, but it's interactive of other people using this tool, and then the AI trying to figure out what's the best and fastest route and things like that. And that's what AI is used today in marketing. And we're going to talk about very specifically how it's used in an SEO, but it's used in so many other platforms. So I think this is just a really good example that if you're doing it old school, it's old school. It's not gonna be as effective.
Right.
Yeah. So as I said, AI is used in a lot of different ways, and we're going to talk about those different ways. And I know we're going to talk about this very specifically with sales forecasting, but you can, I'm not going to read you all the bullets, but you can see how AI is used today. And many of you probably have used Amazon or using Amazon, and now they have anticipated shipping. And just to give you a quick example, just a few weeks ago, I ordered a Keurig. I ordered it at 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, and by 1 o'clock, the Keurig was delivered. And that's just amazing in terms of it determining that perhaps I was searching for coffee shop or coffee machines and what have you, but it anticipated that I was going to be ordering it and got it ready and got it to my house within 3 hours. And that's just an example of how this AI is going to be accelerating the marketing decisions and the marketing of companies. So, Kevin, I said we're going to get to this later.
Yep.
Is that, you have a slide for that, or we could talk about sales forecasting?
Yeah, we do. In a bit, we do have. I do have a specific slide talking about that and how we're able to leverage the Bright Edge technology to do so. Something called opportunity forecasting. It's a really interesting way to look at potential gains in different models of revenue and traffic based on specific keywords and how a site's ranking for those keywords, and then looking at if we were to improve that rank, if we were to improve that performance for those keywords and see an increase in that organic visibility, what could that look like in terms of a potential gain in monthly revenue and monthly traffic? And so we'll definitely dive into that a little bit more here in just a bit.
I think that's really interesting when you talk about, sales forecasting in general. That comes from a sales team. And now sales and marketing is becoming more and more tightly integrated. And for those of you that are on this call that are in marketing, or those that are in sales, the future is having your marketing team tell you, here's what we're forecasting. Here's what we see coming down from a revenue or from a lead perspective, and getting prepared for it. I think that's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, no, it is, and I'm excited to take a deeper look here in just a bit.
So over the next couple slides, I'll go ahead and show you some examples of AI and how it's being used in marketing. We won't necessarily read through everything, but it's basically, collection of data through different sources, and then it can be combined to serve up the best information to you at the right time. Nike creates personalized experiences for their customers using AI. They use it to enable customers to search for products, using conversational languages without images, directly interacting with the person. They thoroughly, try to personalize the customer's journey, which they've done tremendous job at, which is a huge value add to their business. And you can tell when you go to a Nike site, or if you search a Nike product, you're going to get served up something that you've either put information in before about, talked about in your, maybe an Alexa machine, or something was picked up from data that you've put out there in the universe. And that's what's serving up your best experience and your best options for their products.
That's pretty cool stuff, Mike. Last week, my wife and I, we were testing some of this AI that's on some of these websites you're talking about. And very specifically, just to let the listeners and viewers know what we're referring to, is both my wife and I were around different computers. We went to the same web page, but the web page was dynamically built based on the preferences that we were looking for. So same exact web page, but look completely different for what she was looking for versus myself. And that's part of what AI is doing, is actually building a web page specifically for what I was interested in. So that's really cool.
Personalized experience. Yeah, I definitely have seen that as well.
One of the best out there is Amazon. So we'll take a little bit about their information here. They've set the standard for product recommendations, and they continue to be the big leader in e-commerce marketplace today. Amazon's product recommendations, they feature more personalized, enjoyable shopping experience because they have that data to back it up. Your trends in shopping, which you've purchased in the past. It could be something that you've searched outside of Amazon that they're, they have information on. So they're serving that up to you. But research shows that 53% of shoppers, before buying a product, do some research to make the best purchase possible, That's why product recommendations will be a great help for customers to find what they're looking for. And that's whether the recommendations are based on customers' historical purchases or just similar products at different price points. When you go to an Amazon site and you start to look for things, they'll show you what you've looked at before, what their recommendations are, what's in that category that you may enjoy. So they're really giving you a bunch of different options and serving it to you in a number of different ways. Next. Another heavy hitter out there is Starbucks and how they, are apt to know what your wants and needs are before you're coming into their restaurants or before you go to order online. They capture product data through the use of AI and the rewards program in their mobile app. So while you're, gaining your rewards and looking to get a free cup of coffee, they're taking a bunch of information, pulling that in, finding your likes and dislikes and knowing what to serve you when you come in to the rewards app the next time. You get free coffee on your birthday via the mobile app. Customers can talk to the barista voice assistant to order their coffee. So not only can you order through manual text, you can also order by voice to a barista that's there to help with your order should you have questions. And through the AI-powered tool, the Starbucks acquires buying history, make recommendations for you. They'll let you know things that you might enjoy, and then even know the date of purchase, time of order, and even the location that you were at last time, so they could help serve those orders to the restaurant in advance of you going to pick them up.
Yeah, Mike, and on that note, I can actually attest to this very well. Where I live in Brooklyn, I have a Starbucks right downstairs, and there will be times when I get a notification from the Starbucks app on my phone, and next thing I know, I'm downstairs buying a coffee where I wasn't even thinking about coffee prior. So they definitely have the AI down pretty well as far as the app goes, and the history that they have, and the personalization that they can provide. So I definitely know that all too well.
And that's pretty interesting. They probably have an idea of when you're having a cup of coffee each day, whether it's morning or afternoon, to be able to do that.
Yep, to serve that up. Yep, exactly. Have it down to the minute, probably.
That's right.
Yep.
Wait until bars catch on to that.
Oh boy. That's right, Glenn.
The
Yeah.
all-day happy hour. Here's another example for you. This is for a client that we were working with, or still working with, in the ophthalmologist category. They're a leading ophthalmologist practice in the greater Cleveland area. Practice was founded in 1985. They helped over 70,000 patients with glaucoma and cataract conditions. This has successfully used the AI marketing for their efforts, and it's been a tremendous example of how AI can lift organic visits to your website. You can see that in the course of a year, there was a 388% increase in total website traffic. That's 26,500 versus 5,000. And organic became their largest portion of visits to the website. And with that, obviously, there was more conversions, more appointments booked. And this is just a tremendous testament to how this AI marketing is a great tool to start gaining more organic leads through your website.
So, Mike, can you get into any more specifics about how AI was used to boost this SEO?
So with the tool that we utilize for AI, it gives recommendations on what competitors are using. It gives you recommendations on articles that are out there as far as what content's being read, what the hottest keywords are, how you can interject those possibly into the website, when the correct time to do so is. And by doing that, you're going to start to see that increase in the organic traffic. But it's really, and then you can also get a good look at competitors and what competitors are doing to try and gain the organic share that's out there, and kind of take a look at what they're utilizing and maybe search similar terms, even some of the same terms that they're utilizing, but you can write content around that to best optimize your site.
What's interesting about that, we talk about competitors, for those, on this call, is, when we talk to our customers about who your competitors are, the competitors that you might be referring to, Mike, here is, there may not be the competitors that they're dealing with in the real world, but these are the competitors that are fighting for those keywords on, on page 1 or page 2. So, when we talk about competitors, it may not be their traditional competitors. It might be, competitors that are just fighting for the same keywords. I know oftentimes we're fighting for keywords that are so generic that you might find like at a Home Depot's or a Lowe's for a particular product, but the reality is that your product is industrial and it's not what you're going to find at Home Depot. But I think that's really the key here when you're talking about how do you look at the competitors. You got to look at the competitors that are in that digital landscape.
Yeah, that's a great point, Glenn. And the I know working closely with the team using BrightEdge, they're able to get that visibility into the market share of voice, giving us that complete competitive landscape. So we're able to see, for those specific tracked keywords and keyword groups for a client, like you said, who are we competing with overall? These might not be direct business competitors, but how these are the people that are ranking well for these specific terms, right? And how do we fit into that overall competitive landscape? And then, of course, we can also look at the share of voice against those specific tracked and direct competitors. But having both views and having visibility into both really allows for us to be thoughtful and strategic in our actions. And so it really plays into the overall strategy. Yep, great point.
Okay, next. So this slide, we're going to talk about, kind of charts and trends. And what this is telling us is that client keywords performance from February 2017, you can see here on the chart, there were 12 keywords on page 1, and now there is 374 keywords on page 1. And you can see that by the ranking colors at the bottom, which may be a little hard to read. I know I'm squinting a little bit here. And then page 2 grew from 10 keywords to 219 keywords, and page 3 from 26 to 117. So this was done with a combination of content creation and keeping up with the Google algorithm changes, which is extremely important. Obviously you want your site to be optimized the best it can be, including speed, which Google does take a huge look at. Mobility of your content, if it's formatted correctly. And this is just a blueprint of needed changes that was provided to us by BrightEdge, our platform for AI. And that's some things that they can show you within the back end. When Kevin's going to show some of this when we move into a few other slides coming up here.
Yeah, Mike, and this chart, I love to see a chart like this, and just shows me that by the sheer fact of the increases here that we've seen for this domain, this site, it's more content's getting found and indexed by Google, right? And like you said, the team was able to produce that content based on the AI and the recommendations from the platform. But that's really the name of the game, right? Are we creating content on a regular basis? Are we allowing Google to find us easier for more and more searches and what people are actually searching for, and just making that much easier and much more visible in the SERP overall? And a chart like this does a great job of illustrating the kind of results from that type of work. So it's always great to see.
And I want to remind the audience that the half point of this presentation, we're going to start getting into real data. So if you want us to actually look at your websites or your competitors' websites, just type those URLs in the Q&A section, and Kevin can actually start running some reports and doing some discoveries.
So this slide on traditional versus AI marketing, we kind of want to just take a little bit of a closer look at this, just because there are some true definitions of what things are. So for the target audience, the traditional marketing, it's easy to reach people in certain locations and certain demographics. However, digital marketing allows for a global reach while narrowing the target audience. So you're really getting that tip of the spear through their interests and other specific attributes, and being able to find out exactly where they are. With audience engagement, digital marketing, people can reply and comment on many different types of digital media and campaigns. With traditional marketing, it's one-sided conversation. So you're getting a message out there with traditional, not really getting much feedback coming back, but with the digital portion, you can interact with the audience, the prospects that are out there. And then cost efficiency. Traditional advertising tends to cost more, but it's harder to scale. The physical nature of campaigns simply adds more costs. Digital marketing provides a better range of options for affordability and resource requirements. For example, organic content marketing has labor costs, but no placement costs. So you're getting that, not purchasing ad space, but you're actually writing content, putting it on your own website. So there's your labor cost there, but not having to spend those extra dollars to get that information out there on other platforms. Speed of results. With traditional marketing, it take longer to know the efficiency of a campaign. A campaign that you could run could take months. It could take a year to get information back on, since some of that information still lingers out there, and maybe it's old magazines or a billboard that may be out there for a while. But a digital ad can give immediate click-through rate. You can get the information same day. You can be looking at numbers that you need to see if you need to adjust your campaign, change things in a day or two. Maybe you run and then you run another campaign alongside it to see which has best results. But traditional marketing, you're waiting for the phone to ring and someone to come into the shop. You don't have that quick access to reporting or to make changes.
Yeah, and one thing for those again that's on this call that are in sales and marketing, we talk about attribution models. Someone bought a product, someone filled out a form, someone called the company and asking, for more product information. So, what drove those results? So we talk about the word attribution and where did it come from? And so where did that lead come from? And the reality of it is it comes from a lot of different touch points, and it might be 10, might be 20 different touch points that actually drove that form, drove that purchase, drove them to call. And we got to figure out, well, which one or which ones of those touch points actually drove that, that result. And it's been a challenging process throughout the years. But the point about attribution is if you're using AI, decisions and data happens quicker. So the quicker you can get that data, the better you're able to actually figure out what attributes, what touch points that drove that decision or drove that lead coming in. So again, just another reason why AI is vital in marketing today, because it's giving you quicker decisions.
Absolutely. The audience feedback loop. There's an open line of communication with digital marketing. It's easier to know how customers are responding to a campaign, as I mentioned, with reporting at your fingertips daily. With traditional marketing, brand managers are often just waiting and hoping they don't get negative feedback, where you're already way ahead of the game with digital campaigns and knowing what's happening out there. And like I said, being able to change that as needed. So the big question is, can AI replace marketers, or can they work in tandem? And what's being said here is that marketing decisions come from human beings, but AI can help marketers accomplish and improve what they're doing and what they do next, but can't replace them entirely. The information that we get from a tool like BrightEdge helps us develop content, in turn helps us gain more organic searches to the website. Is BrightEdge or an AI tool able to go in and write content for you? Probably not. You're not going to be able to get that fresh content that needs to be crafted by a content writer and put that into your website and optimize the site. But the optimization point does come through like a tool like BrightEdge, where they can tell you what your keywords should be, what your page should include. Um, for Chief Marketing Communications Officer and President at MasterCard, AI can replace a substantial part of the repetitive tasks and data analysis, but went on to say it's going to replace human beings. I hope not, hopefully not in his lifetime, he said. Rogers has said that. And that's a good testament to any of us. I hope that we're able to continue working and continue to do a good job, but have these tools at our fingertips to help make things the best possible that we can do and help market the best possible way we can.
Perfect. Well, I'll jump in on some of these slides here. And like Glenn said, if you do have a site that you'd like us to look at, I'll dive into the platform here, and we can look at some things in real time. So please just drop that in the Q&A, and we'll be able to look at some real time data. But first, let's take a look at a few main areas of the platform that the World Synergy team leverages within BrightEdge on behalf of their clients to get these types of insights and to get that type of data on a regular basis. And so the first area is the data cube. And this is our freeform research section of the platform. So this is where the team can come in and enter in any domain, URL, or keyword. It's the third largest keyword repository in the industry, behind Google and Bing. Has over 4 billion keywords at this point. It's also a historical index. And so the data cube itself was created essentially back in 2014. So we have data going all the way back to 2014. So it really is a great tool to look at trended organic performance in that sense, to see how a site's been performing over the last couple of years. Because what it's showing when you put a domain or a URL into DataCube, like we're looking at here on the screen, is the total organic performance of that domain. So it gives us just like that chart we were looking at earlier, the trended performance on pages 1 through 10, and that's looking at Google US. So how many keywords just overall is this site ranking for, right? And what does that look like on a monthly basis? And then, as we can see in the table chart below, it also gives us those specific keywords. So it shows us the monthly search volume, where we're ranking, the rank change from the previous month, the page that's ranking, as well as the category. And what we mean by that is whether it's a regular web listing or an image or a quick answer, or a video, those other universal results. So we have insights into that as well. So there's a lot of use cases when it comes to DataCube, but the main ones would be keyword research, content research, doing a competitive gap analysis, looking at then semantically related keywords as well. We can put a keyword into DataCube, right, and see the related terms to that specific topic, right, and the search volume associated with them. So for content ideation and content creation, it's extremely helpful in that sense, and the team leverages it in that way all the time. Putting in a main topic and then seeing, okay, here's the semantically related terms. Here's some of them with very good search volume. Let's kind of include those into our content strategy, right, based on what they're seeing within the data cube, as well as reporting just in general, right, being able to see overall how a site's performing organically. This giving us that total organic footprint. How visible are we on Google? What's our overall page 1 presence, and what does that look like? What's our non-brand page 1 presence? We have a filtering functionality that we can leverage within the data cube, so we can filter out branded terms. Just look into that non-branded kind of overall organic visibility and things of that nature. So those are some of the main use cases when it comes to the data cube itself.
Hey, Kevin, I have a question for you, and
Yeah.
The audience will clearly know this is not a rehearsed question, so I'm going to throw you a hard ball.
Okay.
One of the things that Mike had said is that AI is not going to replace content marketers, but what you just talked about and what most of our customers struggle with is actually writing content. So how far away are we with tools like yours to actually write the content for us? Since they know what we're looking for, how far are we talking about in terms of actually writing the content?
Yeah, that's a great question, Glenn. I do think we are a little bit off still, a little far off still. I think like Mike had mentioned, there is that human element that's needed when it comes to actually writing the content itself. Now, we can help. There's a lot that can be done with the content ideation as far as what should be written about, and what keywords we should include, right? And even going as far as the internal linking that should be included within the content itself. So having that content well optimized in that sense, but it's filling in the spaces in between. And I think, I haven't seen any AI that can do that just yet. I think it does take that human content writer to kind of fill in the spaces in between and make it sound organic and make it sound natural. Right. But yeah, there's a lot of pieces that can help put that puzzle together. But I think at the end of the day, there is that human component that's needed to kind of finalize and actually fill in those missing pieces, if you will. Yeah.
Good.
Definitely, yeah. But I think we're getting closer by the day, and by the year. I think there's probably some companies out there working on that type of solution. But yeah, we'll see. If it does happen in our lifetime or not. But yeah, there is that is a big hurdle that I hear from all my agencies that I've worked with over the years. I've been in this role for about 5 years now, and the actual content creation and the actual writing of the content, is something that a human still needs to do at this point. So it's yeah, it's an interesting dilemma, I guess you could say. But I think that's how it's going to be for hopefully the near future. Cool. So yeah, this just talks a little bit more about the data cube itself. Like I said, it's probably one of our more popular features within the platform. Just given that it is completely free form and allows for just that quick and easy kind of research and return some really valuable data. And like I said, we'll take a look at some real life examples here in just a second. Again, if there are any sites that you from the audience would like us to look at, please drop them in, and we can definitely take a look at those as well. Cool. So before we do, did want to let's talk a little bit about opportunity forecasting. I know we had mentioned that before, but this is another big area of the platform. But basically where this comes into play and what it does is, like I had mentioned earlier, it does allow for us to identify opportunities and potential revenue conversions and traffic for those high value keywords. So really, there's 4 different models: revenue, conversions, traffic, and estimated traffic value. And like I had kind of mentioned earlier, it looks at where a site's ranking for specific keywords, right? So for those most relevant, those most important terms, where we're ranking right now, right? And then by applying what's called a targeted rank, it's going to show us the gain in potential revenue or traffic for the individual keyword, as well as overall for a specific keyword group. If we were to go from our current rank to that targeted rank, right? And like Mike and Glenn had mentioned, there's ways that the platform can provide recommendations on how to do that, right? Using specific keywords in your page title and meta description and H1 and H2 tags, things of that nature. The back end, more technical on-page components the platform is providing. And if we were to then go from that current to that targeted rank, yeah, what would that look like in on a monthly gain in terms of the different models? So it really gives us some good data in that sense, as far as kind of prioritizing efforts and seeing what keywords could provide the most lift and things of that nature. So it gives us a really valuable data model to run off of. Great. And then just moving on to the third kind of main section here would be share of voice. And we had talked about this a little bit earlier, but share of voice really gives us that visibility into the competitive landscape. And so, it gives us that, like I had mentioned, at both the what's called the market share of voice, so the complete competitive landscape, just overall, what domains are we competing against for these specific keywords? And the way it does it is it looks at the search volume as well as the rank, assigning a value based on the click curve that we've kind of established and have a screenshot of here. But basically, it shows us who's ranking on page one for these terms, right? Who are we performing against? Who are we up against overall? As well as then how are we performing against those specific competitors that we are tracking within the platform? Maybe that's 2 or 3 direct business competitors that we're tracking, which gives us more visibility into their performance. But it allows for us to gain that just such valuable visibility. And what I always like to say is it for those keywords that we're tracking, for those specific terms, right? And if we have them segmented out into strong keyword groups, whether that's based on products or services or offerings of the business, right? We can then see how we're competing and performing for one group and what that competitive landscape looks like versus the other group, right? So maybe a domain that we're competing with for this particular group of keywords, maybe that set of domains is a lot different for this other group of keywords, right? And so that can really help us guide decisions and prioritize actions. And the team uses this on a daily basis, right? To help with that visibility and to help with those types of insights. So like I said, just kind of goes into input research and understanding that competitive landscape. And kind of talks through where to find share voice and what that looks like, seeing that on a trended basis, what that looks like week over week and month over month. Is there a new domain, a new site that we're seeing increase in their share of voice for this particular keyword group? What are they doing? What page or pages do they have that are ranking really well for these keywords, and where are they ranking? What's their URL structure looking like? How do they have their site and their folders and their subdomains structured, and their category pages versus their product pages? Those types of insights, that's all something that the team leverages and can get right within the platform at their fingertips. So it gives us that just such value. It's probably my favorite metric within the platform overall, and my favorite area of BrightEdge that I, probably the team knows I probably sound like a broken record at this point when it comes to share of voice, but it can give us such valuable insights and data that I stress the importance of it on probably a more regular basis than I should, but it can really help us out in the long run. Great. Well, with that said, yeah, why don't we jump into the platform? I think we at least one submission as far as a site that we can take a look at within the data cube. So let's go ahead and do that here. All right, so within the data cube here, you can go ahead and put a domain in actionsuper.com. And so let's take a look at the data here. So what we're seeing just first is what's called the data cube score. This is a BrightEdge proprietary metric. It looks at search volume times click-through rate, and it gives us that on a monthly basis. This can be taken as essentially an estimate of organic traffic, right? Because it looks at the keywords that the site's ranking for, where they're ranking, and the search volume. And then by using that click curve formula that I showed on the previous screen, same thing that we use for share of voice, we're able to get this overall data cube score. And we're able to see, again, what that looks like month over month. Now down below, we're able to drill into some specific directory performance as far as directories that have increased the most month over month in their data cube score, and then as well as which have decreased the most. So it allows for us to see kind of which areas of the site are best performing, as well as which may be underperforming a bit. From there, we can click over to total organic keywords, where this is where we get into just overall keywords that the site's ranking for, right? So 569 total organic keywords. We can see the trended performance here on pages 1 through 10. So if I hover over May, most recent month of data that we have, we can see the breakdown of keywords ranked on pages 1, 2, and 3, as well as 4 through 10. And so we can see that here. Now, as we scroll down, this is where we start to get into the keywords themselves, right? And so we can see individual data cube score. We can see the blended rank. And blended rank, just as a quick note on that, that just is our way of calculating the rank position, which includes regular web listings as well as universal results. So it includes quick answers, images, videos, local 3-pack. And so that's what we call blended rank. We also have something called classic rank within the platform, which just looks at the regular web listings. So that's exclusive of any universal results. So we can look at it both ways. We have the blended rank change from the previous month, right? So which keywords have increased the most? We can sort the data, right? So if I wanted to see the keywords that have had the biggest decrease month over month in rank, we can sort it in this way. And then if I sort it again, we can go the other way and show which keywords have had the biggest increase in rank, right? So here's where we're now on page 1 for a lot of these. And it looks like actually this is interesting. We're seeing the page, we're seeing the search volume, and then under category, it looks like we've actually, this specific site, we've increased our people also ask presence and visibility. They're now ranking for a lot more people also ask results than they were previously. And it's actually coming from, looks like the 7 types of grinding wheels on the market today, content on the site, all right? That seems to be, might be some relatively newer content, something along those lines where it's now gaining traction. It's ranking and it's more visible in the SERP on page 1, which at the end of the day is where we want to be, right? How can we increase our non-brand page 1 visibility? That's really what, the main kind of crux of organic, right? And so by seeing this and looking at these terms, which are non-branded, right? Some are longer tail, which is good. Looking at the search volume, some have really solid search volume. So, this is good to see, seeing that increase and just being found more on page 1 for those non-brand higher search volume terms.
Hey, Kevin, when you're looking at these results, and you've obviously, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, you've chosen United States, but assuming this is an international business.
Yep.
How do you compare what's happening here versus Europe versus, other?
Yeah, Glenn, that's a great question. So when it comes to the data cube, as far as our research goes, we do have about 20 or 25 country level search engines available. Right now, we just have Google US desktop and smartphone enabled here, but it would just be a matter of us turning them on the back end for us. And then we can look at, Google Canada, Google Germany, Google UK. Right here, we could just select that from the dropdown and then see how we're performing, how the site's performing organically, specifically within that international search engine. So it's just we have those available when it comes to the research section of BrightEdge here in the data cube. But it's just a matter of us basically going in and enabling them and then having them selecting them from the drop down here.
Got it.
Yep. And then that's a good point, because then when it comes to that, tracking locally, tracking internationally, when it comes to the specific tracked keywords for an account within BrightEdge, and the team does this for some more on a local level, but we have over 100,000 search engines available that you can track keywords on. So you're able to get that weekly ranked data, things like share of voice, the recommendations, all based on a local or an international or, another country level search engine. But yeah, here in the data cube, like I said, we have about 20 or 25 in total, and we're continually adding more. But yeah, for the research purposes, it would just be a matter of flipping those on.
We've got a question that came in here, and it's with somebody already doing SEO, what would be the very first step in determining if or how AI could be helpful to their website?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can take I can jump in on that. The first step in determining if AI would be helpful would I would say first right off the bat is looking at the site just overall in something like DataCube, just to see first, I would want to take a look at just, okay, how are we performing overall organically right now? What does that look like? What is our overall organic presence and visibility? And then from there, I would also then want to take a look at the technical health of the site, as far as, how is the site from a technical perspective when it comes to SEO, looking at, the more technical elements as far as page titles and metas and things of that nature, as well as the speed and the actual performance of the site. So kind of doing an audit in that sense, and just seeing kind of where we are and benchmarking that, and then making a determination, based on that benchmark and based on the current overall status of the site. Then we'd be able to make a determination one way or another as to whether or not AI would be beneficial for that particular site.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, when we're using the tool, we'll look at a prospect's website and then compare it to the competitor using this tool. And that gives us a lot of insight of saying, how much work we have to do. But the fact is that if we do this work, we know that we can scale the rankings for it. And so that we talked about just running a report. That's an easy way for us to look at who's your top competitors and, what are they doing? What keywords are they performing? And then, is that something that we could be taking advantage of on the prospect's website. So yeah, I know we haven't really looked at that yet, but I think looking at competitors' data is going to be invaluable, because you can look at that. And in a traditional SEO, it's a lot more difficult to look at competitors' sites because you can see their website, but it's hard to see how they're ranking without getting a tool like this.
Yeah, that's a great point, Glenn. Yeah, and with DataCube, you could come and yeah, like you said, you guys do this all the time, where you just put a competitor site into DataCube and just see, okay, here's their total organic presence and what keywords they're ranking for. We also have the site comparison here, where we can still, if we're looking at, we have the one domain, we want to compare it against another domain, we can just do that right here. And then see just how the two sites are stacking up against one another, as well as then it'll give us a keyword gap analysis and show us, here's the keywords that this competitor is ranking for that we're not. And we can drill into that data using the filters to say easily identify, okay, so here's the top non-brand page one terms that this competitor is ranking for that we're not, and then kind of go that route. But yeah, the competitive analysis within DataCube, the free form nature of it just allows for us to do that, and for you to do that quick and very easily.
Very good. Still got a couple more minutes if there's any other questions here. Let me see. It looks like another one may have come in. How quickly would I start to see results from incorporating AI into my SEO strategy?
Yeah, that's always the question, right? It's tough to put a definite time frame on something like that. When it comes to organic, especially, seeing results can take time, right? Organic is more of a long-term game. That being said, I've seen things happen within 60 days, 90 days, start to see some results. There is a lot of factors that go into it, and I know the typical SEO response is, well, it depends, but there's not a necessarily one overall time. It's just a matter of whenever you start, sometimes 2 months down the road, start to see some traction. Maybe Google starts to index those new pages or those newly optimized pages, which can usually take some time. But I have seen it sometimes less, sometimes longer. But 2-3 months sometimes is when we can sometimes start to see some of that lift begin, I'll say.
Yeah, and those folks that are asking questions, if they're marketing folks, when you're looking at this, specifically the way we look at this is we're looking at competitors, we're looking at key phrases that are ranking well, but those don't necessarily tell us the whole story in terms of like this example that you're showing here. You have grinder wheel, grinding wheel, grinding wheels, plural, and we've seen over the time by looking at certain types of key phrases that some things convert and some don't. So while it might drive, your organic rankings up, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to click on that and convert. And it's that's the part of marketing, that's the research you got to look at. Some, for whatever reason, some words convert, some don't. So it's not just getting increased rankings, which we've seen as quickly as 30 days, you can get rankings increased. What we want to look at is after that, then are those rankings turning into clicks, turning into actual forms or online sales, or are they calling you? So, that's the part of having a tool like this and be able to put in goals attached to it. We can actually see the results.
Yeah, that's a great point, Glenn. And through BrightEdge, we're able to integrate Google Analytics, and we're able to integrate Google Search Console. And like you said, pull in those things like the goals and conversions from GA, as well as the data from Search Console as far as clicks and impressions and click-through rate. And so we can see, what that organic click-through rate does look like for specific keywords, specific pages, and help to strategize and optimize based on that data. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to be on page one for all the keywords, but again, at the end of the day, we're trying to focus on the keywords that are going to convert. So
Yep.
The fact that we integrate with Google and we create goals in Google Analytics, that's really the results. That's that ROI. We keep going back and figuring out what's the attribution rate. If you just want to dominate page one for a bunch of keywords, that's fine, but it's not necessarily the most efficient way of growing actual lead gen and revenue.
So we've got a couple minutes left here before we wrap up. Is there any other further questions that we wanted to drop in the chat box that we haven't gotten to, or things you've been thinking about along the presentation as we've gone along?
So Kevin, can we actually just share a site comparison, looking at a competitor?
Yeah, sure. Did we have a
well, like just as an example, I just saw some of the keywords here, and it's going to be kind of a bizarre one, but just, I saw grinding wheels, and I know Home Depot has grinding wheels.
Sure.
Can we do something like that where we're comparing such a large company, and they're fighting over keywords like grinding wheels?
Yeah, definitely. So we can do this. So we put in the competitor site, in this case, homedepot.com. We see how the two sites are stacking up against one another, right? It gives us the breakdown. Now, when we click over to the keyword gap analysis, this will give us the keywords that Home Depot is ranking for that Action Super is not. Now, in this case, it's going to be a huge list, right? 7 million. Now, let's do this. Let's add a filter for keyword contains grinding, and we can actually do an or filter. Maybe do wheels. Let's just see where that gets us. If we add this filter, help us drill into the data a bit. Now there's other filters that we can add, of course, but just by adding that, well, we've narrowed it down from 7 million to 20,000. But we could even just do grinding wheels too. But again, this is showing us keywords that contain grinding or wheels that Home Depot is ranking for that Action Super is not, right? And maybe we add a couple other filters. Maybe we do page number equals 1. We could get those page 1 terms. And let's just do category equals regular web listing. So that way we filter out carousel and images and things of that nature. And so now we've narrowed that down to about 5,000, right? And so now we can drill in and see, okay, where are they ranking? What page is ranking? What does that search volume look like? We could, of course, customize the filters a bit more to drill in. Just by adding some quick filters, we're able to really, get into some more actionable, more insightful terms that maybe we'd want to start tracking. Maybe we'd want to start going into more from there.
Yeah, and this is helpful for us because sometimes it's the reality of it is that sometimes the keywords or key phrases are just so obvious that it's hard to get page one where you're dealing with Home Depot and Lowe's and things like that. So maybe there's other key phrases we should be focused on as opposed to grinding wheels as an example.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It gives us that visibility. Yeah. What are some maybe semantically related terms that they're ranking for that we're not, that maybe we'd want to start taking into account? Yeah.
Just had another question come in. Question is, what if my business has multiple areas that each compete with different businesses versus one clear-cut competitor? How would the strategy work then?
Yeah. So, in something like that, we're able to, like I had mentioned before, set up, the different keyword groups based on those different business units or business offerings. And then you'd be able to get insight into that market share of voice, and see who you're competing with for each of those specific groups. And then from there, that will give us insight into, okay, maybe we should focus on this group a bit more because we're getting beat out by, these 10 other domains. We're getting crushed in that particular group. Whereas this other group, maybe we're doing okay. We're about in the middle of the pack, things like that. So having, those keyword groups and getting that visibility into the market share of voice can help us to, fully understand that competitive landscape from one group to another if they're all, pretty different, pretty unique.
Great. Any other questions at this time? I know we're up on time here, so I want to be cognizant. Okay. If no other questions come in at the moment here, I'm going to go ahead and call this a wrap. I want to thank both Kevin and Glenn for presenting today. I'd also like to thank the audience for their time and participation. We had some great questions come out of the webinar today. So with that being said, go ahead and look for the recording of the webinar to be sent to you in the next couple days here. We'll get that out. And again, thank you all for your time. Have a great day.
And the webinar does have our contact information, so that should be pretty clear if you have to ask another specific question.
Correct.
Great. Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Glenn, for having me. This was great. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Enjoy the day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.